this is a moment of great honor, another moment that counts.
Well,
I'm
the
here.
honor is mine, Danny. The honor is mine. You've got such a record and done so much. It's an honor just to
Well,
be in
thank
touch
you.
with you. And I do feel that connection. So
Yeah,
whenever you want to record, are you recording now? Or
I'm
oh, yes, you
recording.
are.
I am recording now.
So you set the scene, Danny. You
Okay.
introduce what you think this is about.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, uh, Dr. Phil. This is Dr. Phil Mary. He's the only person in the world with a grounded theory, a
Grounded theory.
PhD. Yeah, it's a PhD in a grounded theory of synchronicity. And we've been talking a lot about synchronicity. So the reason why I wanted to reach out and actually record the session is I've been experiencing tremendous amount of synchronicity. And you may have heard me speak about it. And if there's one person in the world that can help us make sense of this, it's Dr. Mary. And just to connect another dot,
Dr. Phil, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil. So
I know somebody else has that Dr. Phil.
I know, and you're the real Dr. Phil. So
well, maybe I'm Dr. Phil number 2. Who knows?
yeah. Well,
by the way, I'm speaking to you here from my beautiful Singapore. Behind me is the view from my balcony.
Wow, amazing! That is just gorgeous. That is just gorgeous.
And I love this. So we kind of got in touch, and you listened to my masterclass on synchronicity for exchange.
And it's an exchange, and I want to connect one more dot because exchange is based on the work of appreciative inquiry, which was really which was founded by David Cooper Ryder. He was one of the early pioneers in appreciative inquiry, and
he
Dr.
founded it, not just the early pioneer. Appreciative inquiry is Cooper Ryder.
Is David Cooper Ryder, and David Cooper Ryder was essentially your
PhD supervisor.
Your PhD supervisor, which is just so the connectivity and the synchronicity of all of there's a synchronicity in that synchronicity. It's
absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, working with David Cooper Ryder was one of the biggest privileges of my life. He's somebody who I am proud to call friend.
Yeah.
He's not just one of those gurus that talks a lot. He's got a real human side, a human heart. And every 2 or 3 months for 3 years, I had the privilege of spending an hour or so with David. And there's never a time that we talked where I didn't feel refreshed and renewed just by being in his presence. He's just one of those guys that, I mean, he's a world-class guru. Well, I know he doesn't like the phrase.
Well, clearly,
but he's a world-class human being as well.
Well, clearly, something must have rubbed off, on you from him, because that's the experience that I've had in your presence. And even though this is our first one-on-one conversation, it feels like we've known each other forever. Yeah, it
doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it's so. And so, being mindful that we're having an intimate conversation, the two of us, but as well as actually being mindful is that there's a listening, that you're listening as well over here. I'm wondering if it might be helpful for people to understand, what is synchronicity? What is synchronicity, and what is that field within which it emerges? How do we come to understand?
It's Danny, it's got many explanations depending on where you're coming from.
Right.
If you are a person who just says, oh, interesting coincidence.
Yeah.
And synchronicity is essentially you having a conscious thought or unconscious thought about something that you want in your life. That can be, I want $15,000, as happened to me. And 10 minutes after I said I wanted $15,000, 10 years ago, I received $15,000. It can be, I'd like to get a new stand for my mobile phone. Just 1 second. This is synchronicity.
Right.
A while ago, I was saying to myself, I need a stand for my mobile phone when I'm taking movies. And I thought, I wonder what is the best mobile stand to have. I'm somebody who likes to trust experts telling me what is the best one. I said that. The following day, there was a knock on my door. I opened the door. There was a package from Marshall Goldsmith, the great coach, who I'm one of his consultants, work with his model. And they were interviewing me for one of their programs. Inside the package was this, a stand for a mobile phone. They said, Philip, we have an interview with you coming up, and we'd like you to have what we consider to be the best stand for a mobile phone. Now, the day before, I want a mobile phone, the best one. The day after, there's a knock on my door, here's a mobile phone. So it's little things, but it's bigger things.
Right.
So it can be you want to attract the love of your life. It can be you want to attract the perfect job. It can be you want to have some ideas about how I should navigate my life now that I've been diagnosed with brain cancer. So synchronicity is this all-pervading thing, which you can kind of just say, well, it's an answer to prayer. My diving into this, and this is why I connect so well with you, Danny, my diving into this says that it's an answer from the quantum field. Now, so to me, synchronicity is the outcropping of the quantum field, and behind every synchronicity is a miracle waiting to happen. So synchronicity is like this thing called the quantum field, which I know you understand. You can call it God. You can call it the Akashic field. You can call it a higher operating system. You can call it what the heck you like. But it's about saying that there is somehow, somewhere, this beautiful energy system that has got our back. It's a guidance system in little things like this stand for my mobile phone, and in bigger things like what you're going through at the moment. So Christians can call it the Holy Spirit. Buddhists call it something else. Muslims call it something else, but it's about the spirit, I believe, the spirit of God moving through the universe, and we can tap into it.
So, you know, what my experience was, there was life before my diagnosis and then life after my diagnosis.
Right.
And, you know, and when I actually, and I'm trying to actually, you know, I shared a video with Amanda Rooker. It was the second video I did with Amanda Rooker. And it was, you know, of course, we've been having long talks, but it was where, you know, I came to this clarity. And I was trying to track all of these. I didn't think I was having synchronicities. I mean, I just wasn't aware of it at the time. But I remember I tracked a moment when I proposed to my wife where I had a download. Like I told the story of I put my foot down in the road, and like I said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna propose." And it was like I was the last person to actually kind of get that download, and I was bewildered. I was absolutely bewildered, you know. And so I said to her, I think I want to be married. It was the most clumsy proposal, but it was almost like when I look back, I have all the seeds of synchronicity that's brought me to this moment of now. Like everything.
Well, you know, Danny, there's a lot of fun in this.
Yeah.
I was guided by John Denver to propose to my wife.
Right.
I don't know if you remember my story that I told.
Yeah, but please share it again.
I had this beautiful woman in my life, and I was 40 years old, and typical males, we find commitment difficult sometimes. And so I went to a seminar where the songs of John Denver were played. Moving, beautiful songs, not just country roads. I love country roads, but songs like How Could I Leave You Again and stuff like that. At the end of that seminar, I said, John Denver's songs have moved me to definitely propose to my wife, and I hope she accepts. Friday evening, I said, how do I get hold of John Denver? I want to say thank you to him for the beauty of his songs. Don't know what to do. Saturday morning, I woke up in the Singapore newspaper, John Denver in Singapore next week. Now, I told my friend this, who'd attended the seminar with me, and then in the afternoon, I got a phone call from this woman who said, Philip, you don't know me, but I'm the sales manager at the hotel where John Denver is staying next week. If you send me a fax, I'll see what I can do. She had the fax in her hand. The lift opened, there was John Denver. Mr. Denver, we want to give you a message from one of your fans. Sunday evening, John Denver called me at home. Now, again, it's crazy, but it's not crazy. Imagine that, Friday evening, I want to say thank you to John Denver because his songs have moved me so much to propose to my wife. By Sunday evening, Friday evening, Sunday evening, 48 hours later, John Denver has called me at home. And then I proposed to my wife and she says yes. So that's interesting. You see, you tell the story of synchronicity in your wife proposal.
So, so I'm wondering, let me ask you this question. If you were to track back your earliest synchronicity that you can ever remember, like.
Yes, I can. It's in my book. My book is coming out.
Okay, well, can you share with people what your book, what the working title is? And I understand.
It's a definite title, The 9 Keys of Synchronicity.
Beautiful, beautiful. And maybe if you can.
And the amazing thing about it, though, Danny, is it's based on my PhD research. I've got the book somewhere, who knows? It's based on my PhD research. So, not brilliant, but I did my best, and I had David Cooper Ryder. And what I've done from that PhD research, where I interviewed 25 people who'd experienced synchronicity, I drew from that a grounded theory model of what synchronicity is about. And my 9 keys is actually taking what I consider to be the 9 keys of synchronicity and putting that in a format that people can understand.
Well, could we, I want to come back to your earlier synchronicity, but I think the moment you mention 9 keys, every single person is going to want to know what those 9 keys are, or do they have to wait for your book to come out?
I'd rather wait for the book because it's still a work in progress. It's 90% completed, but I've got keys, and the ones that are relevant, I think, to you and me, because I cannot tell you how moved I was by all this stuff you presented at Exchange last week, and what a great organization, Exchange, that brings together these souls. But when you kept saying, I got a message from the field, the answer from the field, it really helped me clarify, because one of my keys says that connection to source is a key.
Yeah.
Meaning connection to something bigger than you.
Yes.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so one of the keys, if you want synchronicity to happen, it's like, and you've helped me, this relationship you and I developed in the last, it feels like forever, but it's actually the last 2 weeks. It feels like flowing all around us is this positive force or energy. Now, scientists call it the quantum field. The quantum field is a magnetic energy that is in us, and we are part of it. And so these answers come. So one of the keys of synchronicity, be connected to source. Whatever you know that to be that connected to source. And then my fourth key of synchronicity, so I'm going to give you a little kind of tasty here. Watch out for anything unusual that happens in your life. Now, as you go through your normal day, you know what your normal day looks like. All of you listening, if there's something that happens which is unusual and out of the blue, follow it, because it may be synchronicity calling you. And if synchronicity is calling you, there's a miracle behind that. So it means that we have to live consciously, being aware of, wow, that was unusual. How come that came my way? Let me explore that. And when you explore that, it's kind of like, you know, the beautiful videos you've been posting, Danny, about seeing the dawn and experiencing a flower, and talking to your beautiful wife, Sue. The amazing thing was that I knew, although attending the exchange seminar meant being up at 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, and I thought, my God, can I do that? I thought, no, Danny's doing this, so I've got to try and attend at least a part of it. When I was there and you were talking, and remember right at the beginning, you mentioned me, and I was so honored.
Yes, right in the beginning.
Yeah, I was so honored that you mentioned me. Just before I came online, I'd been watching Zach, your son, share his video. And I said, wow, what a great boy. Your boys, by the way, are so handsome. You know that, right? They're beautiful souls, physically, but spiritually. And when I came online for your exchange workshop, I thought, I'd like to talk to Zach. Now, Zach was there. I thought, let me private message Zach. So I did. And then Zach and I kind of, you know, got talking. And then I said, after Zach and I finished, we had the first exercise that you put us into. And I said to myself, I'd love to get to know the rest of Danny's family. My first breakout group, your wife, Sue, and your son, Dill, were there. Within 1 minute of me saying, I want to get to know the rest of your family, boom, they were there.
Both of them, yeah.
And it just felt just so special to kind of hear that. So hearing you talk about the field speaks to me. We now know, and scientists agree, that there is something called the quantum field.
Yes.
Indians call it the Akashic field. You can call it what you like, but it's about an energy system that somehow we can tap into.
So, and this is getting back to my original question about when you remember. So for me, I can, in hindsight, I can begin to actually piece together all these synchronicities. But something has happened since I've got, what my cancer has done. It's really interesting. That first night where I tell the story where I said, what matters most now? That was the pivot point, because that question, when John Berghoff, from Exchange, and this I believe is probably David's, I think this is David's quote. It's that words and questions create worlds, right? Words, and by extension, questions create worlds. And so that question on that night of my admission alone to the wards, I could have said, why me, why now? Which would have disconnected me from the field.
Yes.
I found the question, what matters most now? And that put me into a world of abundance. And so, which step by step led to a full spiritual surrender. I think, I've been nibbling away at spiritual surrender for a while, but it actually, at this point where I know my time is likely limited, experiencing the world as being loving, conscious energy is incredibly comforting to me. And
there's a point though, Danny, and I wanted to say this to you. You talked about when you went up to the ward. You see, all of your videos are kind of etched in my brain. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. And you had a choice. And I love that point that you touched on the exchange program. The other thing I wanted to say, though, people don't always have positive reactions to bad things.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's really okay to rage against the moon, rage
Yes,
against
yes.
God, rage against the world. I love it that you said that Zach, when he heard you for the first time, cried and screamed and tore his shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's so much of teaching around that says the spiritual life is about feeling positive.
Well,
You don't always feel positive straight away.
and
Positive only exists at the other side of allowing yourself to be really pissed off.
I think you have served everybody well by saying this over here, because I'm having my own authentic experience, and I don't want that to impose a pressure on anybody. For me, it's unfolded. And by the way, when I got the diagnosis confirmed, in those videos with Dr. Malone,
Right.
grade 4, our family went into an incredibly deep grief response that night.
I'm sure.
And actually that night I'd been feeling so positive, but I was even having to actually wonder. I really had to wonder if I was on a honeymoon before my diagnosis. I was on a honeymoon period where I was living in the field of possibility. So that confirmation was actually it hit me hard. And so I actually went into doubt as I was going through my grief response. Have I lost it? Have I lost that wide open feeling?
Right.
And what was interesting was very soon thereafter, I actually, in that video, the longer video with Amanda Rooker, where I started putting everything together,
right.
I really feel there's such richness and complexity in the tapestry that's actually emerging. And it's not only me, people are coming in through this. There's just such richness interweaving. And I feel the sense of this part of being this coalition of healing movements. And so I actually, and when Dylan, who has never had really a spiritual life, in his video on day 13, pointed up to the box, there's somebody in the box kind of controlling the movie. And,
I like the movie.
And it might be, this movie sucks now, but I don't want to step out of the movie because it could get better. So, but he's pointing up to the box. And
you see, it's interesting. So, go on.
So I just want to pull this. So I actually got to a point very quickly when I saw the actual thread of my life where I am now, and how it's catalyzed my life's work in a way that the absence of the cancer would never have been able to catalyze it.
Right.
Things
No, I understand
that. So I understand that the cosmic script actually demanded that I have this cancer, and that led me into a full spiritual surrender. And in that full spiritual surrender, this is when I've had a flood of synchronicities in that full spiritual surrender.
But that's the difficult thing to struggle with.
Yeah.
A lot of us will be wondering if there's spirituality in all of this, and obviously there is.
Yes.
How would it let Danny have cancer?
Yeah.
Why is this seemingly bad thing happening? But clearly what you're doing, Danny, for all of us, is reframing this.
Yeah.
In the sense of saying, stuff that happens in life just happens.
Yeah.
And it's your response to it that gets us to really wake up. And when you said earlier, you said Dylan's never really had a spiritual life. Let me kind of challenge that.
Yeah.
We've all got spiritual lives. We just wake up to what our spiritual life is when it happens to us, because
profound.
I feel it's like, you get consultants, and I've been a consultant with teams for 40 years. You get these consultants, and you say, what are you doing in your life? Oh, I'm introducing emotional intelligence into the workplace. My response is, oh, you mean it wasn't there beforehand? We have this enormous arrogance very often as consultants to think that we are introducing something. So when I introduce synchronicity intelligence, it was always there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
When somebody is having a spiritual awakening, it doesn't mean that there was no spirit beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the world is beautiful in the sense of what Dylan was experiencing was a new piece to
Yeah.
his spirituality, which is more conscious, whereas before it was there, always there, but it was just maybe a little bit hidden.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm just very big on all the, because so many consultants can be so, I'm sure nobody in exchange, of course, but I'm
Right.
sure most consultants can be like, I'm bringing this to the world.
Right, right,
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're just pointing out the
right.
humanness and existence with a model or something that's useful.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, and I, and that has exquisite resonance, because even when I look back at the boys, you know, both boys, I see such, well, I mean, we all experience the purity of our kids. I mean, they go haywire sometimes, but there's an essence that they have. So, so
Danny, I need to say something.
yeah,
I need to give you a poem.
okay,
The poem has been screaming at me for the last 10 minutes.
okay, please,
This is a poem from William Wordsworth,
okay,
and it's part of my PhD. Now, listen to this. It's called Ode on Immortality.
mm.
Trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Then shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy. But he beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. The youth who daily farther from the east must travel, still is nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on his way attended. At length, the man perceives it die away and fade into the light of common day. Now, trailing clouds of glory do we come. So basically it's saying that young kids and babies have this aura of God's glory,
Yes.
and that slowly and surely in life we lose touch with that. My response when I wrote this poem in my PhD is, what if we don't? Meaning, what if we don't lose these clouds of glory? And so what I'm experiencing as I've seen you in the last 2 weeks, you are reminding us from whence we came.
Okay,
You
so
are reminding us about the clouds of glory.
I just have to, I want to connect the dot here because it's a synchronicity.
Okay.
So I have a personal vow. It's almost my ode, my personal ode. And my personal ode, it's actually, you know, at the end of my introduction in Leading Well from Within, it's a vow. I vow to live my life from home.
Huh.
And when I get lost, find my way back, and to inspire others to live from home too.
There you go.
Yeah,
So yes, so that's absolutely, you see, because what you shared, which was so powerful in the exchange program, we are all
and we just we should probably, I think, mention, because some people listening to the video, just to be explicit, this was the 3-day awakening conscious leadership deep dive workshop that was based on Leading Well from Within, and magically powered by the exchange approach. And that was that union that unlocked this experience to be the finest expression of my work that I've ever done in community with everybody else. And that's now, you know, will be an enduring product.
The exchange approach is powerfully guided by David Cooper Ryder at the recent inquiry. Yes. And here I am. David Cooper Ryder was the midwife with me of my synchronicity workshop.
So
we've gone full circle with this stuff, and I just think that, you see, Wordsworth 300 years ago said, we have come into this world trailing clouds of glory,
Mm.
and then we lose touch with it.
Yeah.
And my response to that in my PhD was, what if we don't?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you're teaching us in the exchange program and in your book and in your life is we can reconnect with those clouds of glory anytime we want to.
Yeah.
And what I love about your boys and your wife, and we haven't talked about Sue, I just
She's amazing.
have so much love for Sue.
Yeah,
What an amazing woman. And
Absolutely.
there I was talking to her in my first exercise of the program. But your two boys, Danny, are incredible.
Yeah.
Not only are they beautiful, they're very good looking boys, but the way that they talk about this experience they're going through, they are reconnecting with the clouds of glory.
Speaking about clouds of, have you seen Zach's video on day 22 after the program?
I've only seen two videos, one of Zach, and then one before the program, and then one where Dill talks about the movie. Just those two.
So it's this one over here, Philip, on day 22.
Right, I've got all. I've saved all of that. Let me go look.
So
what's the essence of that, Danny?
The essence of that is this: when you're talking about connecting with spirit. So he goes into, he gets, what we did, the last exercise was probably was the apex of the program, because I used the exchange approach to send people into a peer coaching approach, to a peer coaching exercise. And so helping people self-coach themselves with the question. So, people would come with a challenge, and then instead of actually, a coach giving advice, they would just simply ask questions like, listen with empathy and ask, well, what are the outcomes that most matter to you? So Zach tells a story that he consumed all the time, he said, and he was with Loretta, and he was really wrestling with, well, what am I going to do when my dad goes? What am I going to do when my dad goes? How do I resolve things? And Loretta holds up an hourglass. And because, and initially Zach was like, well, that represents time running out. And then what Loretta did was she took the hourglass and she said, well, when the sand runs one way, we can always turn the hourglass over again and it runs back the other way. And so what Zach distilled is, it's not what the sand represent is not dad's flesh and bones. What it represents is his spirit. And so he understood that the spirit was infinite, that even when I disappeared from the mortal field,
right,
that I enter the spiritual field, and that he can always turn the hourglass over and over and will forever be connected with me.
Right, but and the interesting thing, you don't disappear into the spiritual field. You're already in the spiritual field.
Exactly.
That continues.
Yes. Yeah.
I gain a lot of comfort in that, because when Dill talked about the movie, he said, and we're still in the movie, and anything can happen. You said to Sue in your video that you shared with me yesterday, you said to Sue at the end, we are in this unfolding story.
Well,
where nothing is written.
I just want to pause back, because I'm actually digesting what you just said, and I'm realizing it's more profound than I imagine. I want to make sure that we don't move over this too fast.
Please do.
Because what you've just said is like incredibly important, and it's something. And what the wisdom with which you speak, reminds me of what I already know. It's an awakening as well. It's an awakening, but it's actually bringing me to a, and that comment, that comment you just made, you don't merge into the field, you already are in the field,
Yes.
is, I just want everybody to just take a moment to soak that in, that that we're already in the field. It's almost like we shed our mortal coil, but we're already in that field. So I think that's very significant and very comforting in many ways.
And it's a difficult thing to grasp, Danny, to begin with. It needs a mindset. And it's based on that phrase that we all know. Now, remind me what it is. We're not physical bodies having a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
We are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Right.
And so often we forget that the essence of who we are is a spirit.
Yeah,
and that the spirit continues.
So, this is something I love what you're saying, is that we forget. So, the heart, the reason why I've got this sunflower in the, in the center, because it's nature's representation of wholeness. And the root of the word, as I said, the root of the word health is wholeness. And we're already born whole. And it's not even the act, the quest of healing is not even the act of becoming whole. It's remembering the essential wholeness you already are. So when one of the early versions of the iPhone, I was looking at kind of technology, and I was looking at, is there a way, because this aspect of reminders is very, very important, because we forget. It's when we forget that we get fragmented. So what I created, in the earlier version, and I still have it, but it's no longer in the App Store. I created on the iPhone, I created an app called Timeless Reminders.
All right.
Timeless Reminders, where you could mash up your photos, videos, text, and you could create these movies of meaning that you could schedule to arrive at you throughout your day. So that was the timeless reminder, leveraging technology that somehow is a part of our forgetting. We get distracted.
And it's the forgetting. You see, that this is why I love the Wordsworth poem. And I say often, trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home.
Yeah.
That's the essence of who we are. But then Wordsworth says we enter into the prison house.
Yes.
The prison house of survival mentality, of not thinking we can do things, of not thinking we can be loved, of not thinking that we're good enough.
Yes.
Because at the beginning, we are coming from God with clouds of glory. And to me, just building on what you said, our job in life is to remember and rediscover and re-experience those clouds of glory. And although it's a tough thing, and I'm probably not the only one, Danny, it's a tough thing to listen to you. Yeah. And it's a good thing to listen to you. Because when I listen to you, the tough thing is, oh, Danny's got cancer. Yeah. I consider you my close friend now, although we only met this time around 2 weeks ago. And it's painful because we're all reminded of that. Yeah. And yet at the same time, when I listen to you, I hear this tremendous joy for life. And it's one of the paradoxes of listening to you, that we see this man who we love with this terrible cancer, and we see this man who we love who's terribly alive.
Yes.
And that must be so much stronger for your family to see all of that at the same time.
Well, it is a mix, and I would say our family has never been thriving like it's thriving now. We just took our family pictures outside with sunflowers. It was a joyful celebration. And then, I know it's a double-edged sword, because the more we fall in love, with Sue, we had a very tender moment, and and we had this moment where she cried, like we were very tender, and then she cried. And, you know, I wanted to give a voice to, she cried. You know, I said, does the facts we're getting closer and more, and our love after 22 years is blossoming even more intensely. And on the one hand, it's delicious, but on the other hand, the flip side is it actually creates, you know, the fear of the absence.
Yeah.
Sue. And I'm mindful of that. And yet, you know, I just want people to know that this may shift, this may change. I have no fear. I have no.
Danny, can you allow me to share the screen at the moment? Is that
Please,
possible?
yes.
As you spoke, and this is just a flow. This is a flow of consciousness, and I want to share with you.
Yep. Does that give you access?
Yes, I want to share with you what I found, what I thought of. Is this?
Oh,
now, I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, that was what
was
happened.
from the exchange program.
Yeah.
And I just look at the look between you and Sue.
Yeah.
That's just so special. And look at the two boys watching on.
And that was.
And all the pain and all the glory of what's happening to you, to me, is in that picture. Look at the two of you and Sue looking at each other.
So this was a moment in the program. So I want to just share what happened, you know, just to put in context with this. You know, our family went through the program together, but in different rooms. And there was a part of the program, and I'm trying to remember the precipitating.
It was when we came back after one break.
There was one break, but something happened where I just I was so deeply moved that I lost it, and I started crying. I started sobbing, and and Sue and the boys, you watch them leave their windows on Zoom, and us there now stand in the one window together, and it was just such an act of compassion with my family, and actually just the fact that my boys, I trust, would have come, but that Sue arrived first somehow meant just something extra special to me. Yeah. Just amazing. Yeah. That was one of the sweetest.
I just look at this and I see pure tenderness and pure love.
Yeah, it's a wonderful picture.
It was so moving. I'll send you that. I'll send you that. I have to share another. I mean, because that's why I love your approach, Danny. You're this great thinker, but you're this great doer who's also concerned with the things of this world.
Yeah.
And when in the video that you asked me to look at, you started talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you don't know, or maybe you do, I've been consumed with the transformation that's now going on in America. Yes. And I'm consumed with the beauty that Kamala and Joe are bringing back into American life. The civility. I posted something recently about the appointment of a woman as national intelligence director. And the title was, "One of the kindest women I've ever worked with." Nice. Now, this woman, and I've forgotten her name, but she's head of national intelligence. She works incredibly hard. And what, back on the forgetting theme, what we've forgotten over the last 4 years is the beauty of leadership and the kindness of leadership and the integrity of leadership. So as I watch Joe Biden choose, and let's not get into the politics because we know there are 74 million Americans who disagree with me, but what I love is seeing qualities of leadership epitomized by this woman, the kindest person I ever met. Have you ever seen that describe a top, tough leader? No. And so what I'm loving, and I don't know where it leads to, but when you talked about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, my heart is rejoicing globally, because
Yes.
don't forget, America, you are not just America. The great example that you give to the world, we're all with you.
Well, so here's what I'm mindful of. There's a lane opened up. I mean, this is a historic time that calls for healing on so many, healing from COVID, healing from systemic racism, healing from political polarization, all that healing and more, and discrimination of all forms. That requires healing and growth.
And macho sexism.
Yeah, and matches. And exactly. So we have this lane now that's opened. It's opened. And what, I mean, this is why I actually think I was called into this time. I was called into this time because, that I have the opportunity to actually do something at scale. And let me just I just want to, when I look at this channel and I look at the coalition of healing that is assembling. And if I look, when I said that I actually want to shine a light, I want to shine a light on both individuals and organizations that are doing great work of healing. And I would consider you an individual that deserves to have that light shined on. It was interesting when you said, I don't necessarily, I'm not asking for additional exposure. You were very humble. But I just want to be very clear. I think a light needs to be shined on you because of you're an agent of healing. People need to know about you, and they are going to find out about you certainly after your book.
Well, it's interesting. Back to David Cooper Ryder. Yeah. You see, people who promote themselves, you can very quickly see when it's promotion of self and not promotion of an idea. And I'm very, very conscious that I want synchronicity, because synchronicity is such a profound re-engagement with the spiritual world. David Cooper Ryder, when I first started working with him, he said, Philip, I noticed that in your work, you are referring to other people who've looked at synchronicity. He said, I want you to see this differently. I would like you to become a world voice leading the area of synchronicity. Now, there's part of me that says, me, Philip Merry, can he do that? So I'm feeling into this whole mission. I'm 71 last week.
God bless you.
And I feel 16 years old inside. One day I'll grow up. Don't know when that will be. I hope never, maybe. But what I'm now feeling is that the next period of my life is helping people understand synchronicity and the miracles behind synchronicity.
So I want to make a distinction between self-promotion and promotion.
Okay.
So it's a very important distinction. So oftentimes people self-promote, and it's really what they're promoting is the ego aspect, that they want to be important in the world, as opposed to the promotion that comes from elevating humanity.
Yes.
So I want to actually shine a light on you. And this is my, because I understand, I did a video on respect and beauty. So for me, they're intertwined. If you look at that video, respect and beauty, I want to pay deep respect to allow the emergence of beauty. There is my superpower is actually, and our family is, we making meaning out of suffering in service of others. We're making meaning out of suffering in service of others. And that last part is the key. And so when I look at you, and I'm going to have to be a gatekeeper, because I think people are going to, as this gets bigger and bigger and bigger, there are going to be people coming in with commercial interest that I have to be a gatekeeper for, and I feel called to protect beauty. And so the reason why I wanted to have a call with you is not because you asked for it, but because I believe you are reminding people of the quantum field. You're reminding people that and even you reminded me tonight, that it was a subtle distinction when I said you know, when I leave, I'm going to merge into the field. And you said, no, you're already in the field. So you offered me a reminder that actually you offered me a reminder of something I already knew. So it was like something like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten that. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge the extraordinary work that you do in service of others. You're not looking to promote yourself. What you're looking to do is you're looking to elevate others. And that's beautiful. And I just want to acknowledge the beauty in that.
I want to be successful in what I do. I want to, all the stuff that goes along with running a business, but is driven by, I want people to understand that answers to their life are all around them.
Yes.
And all it takes is an opening of the eye to see that it's there, and there are answers that they just need to open their eyes to. And synchronicity provides a miracle. Whenever you smell that thing that happens, which is out of the blue, and you pursue it, somewhere, somehow, there's a miracle behind that unusual event.
Yeah. Well, I just, you know, I'm mindful, Dill's going to be commandeering my Zoom room.
Yeah, we better go. But listen,
I feel that we were actually, you know, coming to a graceful close, and I want to honor the moment and do you the honor of, if there's one message of healing, you know, the Leading Well from Within channel is about healing, growth, and flourishing in service of everybody here listening. Is there a distilled message? I mean, you have so many messages that, is there?
Okay, I have. I tell you, words flow with me very often, and they come from somewhere. Synchronicity and the quantum field is in service of reminding you to become what you already are, but have forgotten. That there's something of the essence of who you are, you know. And all that is happening with the quantum field and synchronicity, these are God's way of nudging you to remember that you are a beautiful person who came into this world with clouds of glory all around you. And synchronicity is about reminding you that you are that already. There's nothing you have to become. You just have to surrender to knowing that you are this beautiful child of God.
Well, Philip, Dr. Phil, I just want to thank you for expressing such extraordinary beauty, and reminding us of the beauty that is abundantly within us all.
Okay, all right. I promised Zach I would introduce him to synchronicity, so I want to do a synchronicity masterclass just for your family. So you set that up, and I am there to serve and help in whatever way I can.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Love you, Danny.
I love you, Dr. Phil. Okay.
Love you, my soul brother.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
Bye, bye.